Welcome back, everyone, to Book on a Shelf, your place for, well, those really deep, satisfying conversations about the words that shape how we see things. I'm really glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, me too. And today we're really getting into it. We're going right to the very heart of poetic tradition, I think, moving beyond just, reading pretty lines.
Definitely. We're going to dissect the anatomy, if you will,
Yeah.
of probably the most famous poetic form ever, the sonnet.
That's the plan.
Right. So our mission today is to take you right inside the strict rules, the clever structures of this classic form. And we're going to do that by looking at two huge, but, well, really different expressions of love.
Totally opposing in many ways.
Exactly. We're putting William Shakespeare's incredible Sonnet 18, the one, the eternal summer poem.
Everyone knows that one.
Yeah, head-to-head with Edna St. Vincent Millay's much more bracingly pragmatic Sonnet XXX. That's from her 1931 collection, Fatal Interview.
And the goal here really is to unlock the kind of secret language hiding in those 14 lines. By the end of this deep dive, you should understand not just what these two poets said about love, but how that rigid container, the sonnet form itself, actually dictated and shaped their message.
And across, 300 years of literary history?
Exactly. It bridges this huge gap.
Okay, so if we're talking love poetry, we kind of have to start with the big challenge, right? The thing every love poet bumps up against. Love is, well, it's invisible.
Intangible, yeah.
You can't touch it. It's all internal feeling.
Yeah.
But the poet's job is to somehow get that feeling across to a stranger, to the reader.
Precisely. And, as our source material points out pretty clearly, poetry, it's a bit like music in this way. It can't describe an internal feeling directly. It just can't. It has to rely on analogy, comparison.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, the poet has to take that mysterious, that untouchable emotion, love, and sort of anchor it to something concrete, something familiar, like a physical object, an experience, maybe a season, something the reader already gets.
To make it understandable.
Yeah, exactly. It's the poet basically saying, look, my love feels like this thing you already know.
Huh. It's interesting. If you, listening now, just take a second. If you had to brainstorm comparisons for love, what would you pick? And what quality would each one communicate? Is love, I don't know, a huge wave crashing down?
Right, which would imply maybe overwhelming passion, maybe destruction even.
Or is it like the quiet, slow growth of a tree, which maybe suggests endurance, stability?
And that's what's fascinating here. Shakespeare gives us this beautiful analogy, a perfect summer day. But then he spends most of the poem proving why that analogy isn't actually good enough.
Right, he sets it up just to knock it down.
Pretty much. And then Millay, 3 centuries later, she just throws out those kinds of high-flown natural comparisons altogether. She compares love to, well, meat, drink, medicine.
Wow, okay. That's a contrast.
It's a huge contrast. And we're going to explore what those really radical choices tell us about how they saw the world, their worldviews.
Okay, so to really get this contrast, we need a little context. Let's meet the authors. Separated by centuries, but both, wrestling with this same tight traditional form.
First up, obviously, William Shakespeare. 1564 to 1616. You can't really talk English literature without him. The heavyweight champ of the English Renaissance.
We mostly think plays, right? Hamlet, Macbeth.
Sure, the plays are monumental. But he was a poet first, really, and he was adapting to the literary scene of his time.
And back then, in the 1590s, when he started writing sonnets, that form was it. It was the absolute peak of literary fashion in England.
Oh, absolutely. It was kind of a sophisticated game almost, often used by male poets for these long, very stylized tributes to a beloved who's usually far away, maybe unattainable. It was high art, formal, intellectual.
And his sonnet cycle, the whole set of 154 poems, published in 1609, that basically set the standard, didn't it, for the English sonnet?
It really did. And it's through those poems we get these tantalizing hints about his personal life, or at least, the persona he wanted to project, including the famous Dark Lady.
Yes, the mysterious Dark Lady. Still arguing about who she was.
Still are. One of literature's great unknowns. But the point is, Shakespeare used this very established, very rigid form to make these grand, immortal promises.
Okay. Now let's jump way forward, fast forward to the 20th century. Specifically that period between the World Wars. And we meet Edna St. Vincent Millay, 1892 to 1950.
Yeah, she was something else. A true original, a real cultural phenomenon in her day.
Became super young.
Instantly famous. At age 19, her poem Renaissance just blew people away. She became known for this very modern, free-spirited kind of bohemian lifestyle.
The image of the rebellious, liberated artist Jazz age icon.
Absolutely. So you'd think, right, someone so modern, so culturally rebellious, she'd ditch the old forms, go for free verse, which was the big new thing then, open structures.
But she didn't.
She did the exact opposite. She committed herself like fiercely to these highly crafted, very traditional forms, especially the sonnet.
That's fascinating. Why?
Well, it's a great question. It was this amazing contradiction. Her technical skill was just undeniable, and people recognized it. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1923.
First woman to win it, I believe.
That's right. A huge deal. It was like she took the Renaissance's most elegant, refined container, the sonnet, and just poured in all the challenging, pragmatic, often pretty dark stuff of the modern age.
Okay, so two giants. Renaissance man, roaring 20s woman, both picking the same tight 14-line structure. To really get what they did with it, we need to look under the hood. We have to deconstruct the sonnet itself.
Right, the basics. The sonnet form has been around since, what, the 13th century in Italy, but its key features, they've stayed pretty stable, even with different variations. It's always 14 lines.
14 lines, got it.
It's a lyric poem, meaning it focuses on internal feelings, emotions,
Got it.
and crucially, it has a strict pattern of both rhyme and rhythm, meter.
All right, so since we're starting with Shakespeare, let's focus on the English sonnet, sometimes called the Shakespearean sonnet for obvious reasons. The definition is all tied up in the rhyme scheme, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you, listening, you kind of need to know this pattern because it dictates the whole argument, the flow of thought in the poem.
So what is it?
The pattern is abab, CDCD, FFEB.
Okay, say that again.
Ab, CDCD, FFBE. See how it breaks down?
Yeah, you've got 3 groups of 4 lines that rhyme alternately.
Right. Those are the quatrains. 3 distinct 4-line units.
Abab, first quatrain. CD, 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 second quatrain.
FF, third quatrain.
Exactly. And then it wraps up decisively with that 2-line conclusion. That's the couplet, the EE rhyme.
Okay, so the rhyme gives it the structure.
Yeah.
But the rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
that's the heartbeat, the music, and that's the famous, maybe slightly scary, iambic pentameter.
It sounds complex, but let's break it down. It's actually more intuitive than you might think.
Let's try.
Okay, 3 simple bits. First, meter. That's just the repeated pattern of rhythm in the line.
Like a beat in music. Pretty much. And that pattern is measured in units. We call those units the foot.
Okay, meter's the pattern, foot is the unit.
Now, the specific type of foot we care most about for sonnets is the iamb. Think of an iamb as a little verbal pulse. Di-dium.
Di-du.
Yeah. It's one unstressed syllable followed by one stressed syllable. It's probably the most natural, common rhythm in spoken English. It kind of sounds like walking or, yeah, like a heartbeat.
Give me some examples.
Okay. The word delight. Delight. Da-doom.
Okay.
Today. Today. Da-doom.
Right.
How about compare, which we'll be doing a lot of today, .com/pair. Da-de-um.
Ah, okay. So it's just how English often sounds naturally.
It really is. It's everywhere when people talk.
All right, so that's the iambic part. What about the pentameter?
Right. Penta, Greek for 5.
5.
So iambic pentameter simply means a line of poetry that has exactly 5 of those little da-dium heartbeats. 5 iambs. 5 feet.
Which makes 10 syllables per line.
Usually, yeah. 10 syllables. Unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. 5 times. Now, a really skilled poet like Shakespeare, they don't follow it like a metronome all the time. That would sound, frankly, boring.
Right, robotic.
But the underlying structure, that de-de-poom by 5 pattern, it's always there. It's the baseline.
Can we hear it in Shakespeare? Use that Sonnet 18 example you mentioned.
Perfect. Listen to the end of the poem, those triumphant lines.
Mm-hmm.
Listen for the 5 distinct de-dooms per line. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see.
Da-dum, 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 da-dum. Yep, 5.
So long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Same again. Wow. You can almost feel that rhythm pushing the argument forward, can't you? Line after line.
It propels it. And that rigid, controlled structure, that's the crucial vessel, the container that both Shakespeare and Millay had to master. And it's that structure that lets the sonnet pack these complex philosophical arguments into such a tiny space.
14 lines isn't much room for big ideas.
Not at all. Which brings us to a really useful reading strategy. It's all about tracking the argument's flow. Sonnets aren't just random thoughts. They usually follow a very specific path.
Okay, how do we track that?
Well, think of it in 3 steps. First, you identify the situation, or the problem, or maybe the question that gets introduced at the start. Usually, this takes up the first 8 lines, the first 2 quatrains.
Okay, lines 1 through 8. What's the issue?
Exactly. Second, you look for the turning point, The moment where the argument shifts, where it pivots from problem to solution maybe, or from question to answer. We call this the volta.
Volta, like voltage.
No, it's Italian for turn, the volta. In a Shakespearean sonnet, this turn often happens right at the beginning of the third quatrain, line 9, or sometimes it's held back right until the final couplet.
So the volta is like the big twist, the moment things change direction.
That's a great way to put it. It changes the whole direction of the thought, absolutely.
Hmm.
And then third step, you figure out how the situation gets clarified or how the problem is resolved or how the question gets answered, and that's usually locked down, cemented in the final couplet.
Problem lines 1 to 8, turn, volta, often line 9, resolution, couplet, lines 13, 14.
That's the typical flow, and we're going to apply this structure right now, starting with Shakespeare's masterpiece.
All right, section 2, Shakespeare's big claim for immortality in Sonnet 18. It kicks off with maybe the most famous opening line in poetry, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?"
Such a beautiful, seemingly casual opening. But the answer comes back instantly, and it's almost dismissive. The problem, the initial situation, is that the beloved is better.
Right, thou art more lovely and more temperate.
Temperate, that's key. It means moderate, mild, stable, unlike summer. So the beloved is already superior.
So that opening line really does set up the whole poem. The next part has to prove why summer is a bad comparison.
Exactly. The first two quatrains, lines 1 through 8, they systematically break down why nature, why a summer's day just isn't good enough. This is the problem section. The natural world is temporary, and it's fundamentally flawed.
How does he show it's temporary?
He says, summer's lease hath all too short a date. It's like a rental agreement that runs out quickly. A very legalistic metaphor, actually.
And the flaws.
Oh, the flaws are more direct, more visceral. Nature is unstable. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Beautiful flowers get ruined.
Okay.
And even the sun, he calls it the eye of heaven, but it's not perfect either. Sometimes it's too hot, scorching everything. Other times its gold complexion, its brightness is dimmed by clouds.
So nature is moody, unreliable, changes all the time.
Exactly. And then Shakespeare delivers the hammer blow, the ultimate truth about everything beautiful in the mortal world. He summarizes the entire problem in one absolutely devastating line, he says. Every fair from fair sometime declines.
Meaning everything beautiful eventually fades.
Yes. By chance, our nature's changing course untrimmed.
Untrimmed. What does that mean exactly?
It's such a potent word. It doesn't just mean losing beauty in the sense of fading. It means being stripped bare. Stripped of decoration, of ornament, of dignity. Everything beautiful eventually gets taken down, dismantled. Either randomly, by chance, like an accident or disease.
Or just by time itself.
Or by the slow, inevitable grinding down of time, nature's changing course. That's the core problem. Physical decay is unavoidable in the natural world.
Okay, so that sets up the problem brilliantly. Where's the turn? The volta.
It happens exactly where we'd expect in a Shakespearean sonnet. Line 9, bang, start of the third quatrain. This is where the argument pivots sharply. From describing the problem decay to guaranteeing the solution immortality.
Ah, so here comes the promise. He guarantees the beloved's beauty won't decay like summer.
Precisely. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, he declares. Your beauty, your essence, it won't disappear, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Owest meaning own or possess. You'll gluft the beauty you possess.
Time don't strip it away.
And not even death gets the last laugh. He promises. Death will not brag thou wanderest in his shade. Death won't be able to boast about having claimed you. You'll escape the grave.
But how? That sounds like a huge claim. Is he saying the person won't physically die?
That's the brilliant, maybe slightly self-serving part. The mechanism for this eternal life isn't physical resurrection, it's art. It's the poem itself.
Okay, unpack that.
He says you'll escape death's shade when in eternal lines to time thou growest.
Eternal lines. The lines of the poem.
Exactly. The immortality is achieved through the poem. Your beauty grows into time, becomes part of eternity because it's preserved in these very lines he's writing.
So the survival depends entirely on Shakespeare's words surviving.
That's the claim. It's an astonishing assertion of power for the artist, for the poet. He's basically saying, nature fails, time destroys, but I, the poet, through my art, I can grant you immortality. I can cheat time. I can take your physical beauty, which is doomed to fade, and transform it into the permanent, transcendent beauty of art. And this all resolves just perfectly in that final couplet, the two-line knockout punch.
Right, the resolution. It makes the promise absolutely concrete, doesn't it? Linking the poem's life directly to the beloved's life. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see,
Meaning, as long as humanity exists and can read,
so long lives this poem, and this gives life to thee.
the poem lives, and because the poem lives, you live. Your essence, your beauty, preserved forever.
So if we connect that back to the analogy idea, he brings up summer, the best nature can offer.
Only to show its limitations, its flaws, its temporary nature, and by doing that, he positions art, specifically his sonnet, as the superior, the truly enduring medium. Love, beauty, they only survive nature's decay because they've been captured here, in the strict rhythm and rhyme of this poem.
It's an incredibly beautiful, confident, sweeping promise, all built on the idea that art conquers time, conquers nature.
It is a quintessential Renaissance belief in the power of human creation.
Okay, but now, we need to take a deep breath, jump 300 years forward, and brace ourselves. Because Millay's view is, well, it's something else entirely.
Yeah, get ready for a dose of modern reality, where Shakespeare starts with celebration, immortality. Millay's Sonnet XXX opens with cold, hard pragmatism. Let's dive into section 3, Millay's very pragmatic take on love.
The contrast hits you right away, first line. It's like a direct rebuttal to centuries of romantic poetry. Instead of shall I compare thee, Millay just states flat out, love is not all.
Bam, 4 simple words and the whole philosophical ground shifts, a total rejection of that Renaissance idealism.
And she spends the first 8 lines, those first 2 quatrains, hammering that point home, setting up her problem. But it's not the decay of nature. It's the overwhelming demands of the physical body.
She just systematically lists all the things love cannot do for you, and they're all basic material survival needs.
It's almost like a checklist of what love isn't.
Exactly. Love is not meat nor drink, nor slumber, nor a roof against the rain. Basic stuff. It won't feed you, hydrate you, give you rest, or keep you sheltered from a storm. It fails Survival 101, like you said earlier.
It's like Maslow's hierarchy, isn't it? Love's way up high, but these base needs come first.
Precisely. And the imagery, it just gets more intense, more physical as she moves from basic provisions to like actual life and death situations. Love cannot fill the thickened lung with breath.
Oof, that's vivid. Thickened lung makes you think of illness, right? Pneumonia, TB, something serious.
Absolutely. She's not using vague, pretty images. She's putting you right there in the sick room, maybe the hospital. Love can't clean the blood. It can't set the fractured bone.
It seems almost pathetic, helpless, when faced with real physical suffering.
It offers zero physical salvation, none. And she drives this home with that really dark, almost brutal metaphor about the drowning men. Love is not a floating spar to men who sink and rise again.
It won't save you if you're drowning. It's literally useless for staying alive.
Useless in that physical sense. But then, just as you think she's completely dismissed love, she hits us with this powerful paradox. Right at the end of the second quatrain. Line 8. It's a crucial pivot.
What's the paradox?
She admits, despite everything she's just said about its uselessness, that many a man is making friends with death for lack of love alone.
Wow. So even though it can't fix a broken bone or feed you,
Its absence can kill you.
that changes things completely.
It really does. Love might be materially useless, but it's so essential to the human spirit, to our emotional core, that living without it can lead to despair, to giving up on life itself. It transforms love from like a luxury item into this profound emotional necessity.
Even if it still takes a backseat to, starving or suffocating.
Exactly. It's a non-physical need, but a need nonetheless, necessary for emotional survival.
But Millay doesn't just leave it there on that emotional high note. The poem keeps pushing towards that pragmatic, maybe even bleak reality. The third quatrain projects this really dire future scenario.
Yeah, she imagines herself facing the absolute worst, in a difficult hour, maybe pinned down by pain and moaning for release, physical agony.
Or maybe worse, nagged by want. That sounds like grinding poverty, doesn't it? Absolute, desperate need, a situation she can't fix herself.
It pushes the survival question right to the edge. And the admission she makes here, honestly, it might be one of the most brutally honest moments in all of sonnet literature, especially when you put it next to Shakespeare's absolute guarantee.
What does she admit?
She admits the possibility of betrayal. Driven by that extreme suffering or need, she says, I might be driven to sell your love for peace. Peace from pain, maybe. Or trade the memory of this night for food.
Trade the memory for food. That's devastating.
Isn't it? To put a price, even hypothetically, on love, on intimacy, on memory itself. That admission, that possibility, that's the volta. That's the turn here.
It's not a turn towards a solution like in Shakespeare. It's a turn towards vulnerability, uncertainty.
Exactly. The question isn't if love is precious. It clearly is. If lacking it can kill you. The question is whether it's more precious than sheer survival. Can love withstand starvation? Can it withstand unbearable pain? The fact that she even entertains the idea of trading it away is the ultimate challenge to romantic idealism.
Puts an explicit price tag on this, supposedly priceless.
That's it, exactly. And the ending, the final couplet, the resolution, it's not some triumphant guarantee like Shakespeare's "So long lives this." It's pure hesitation, human complexity.
Does she say, "I'd never do it"?
No, that's the key. She doesn't give that easy assurance. She says, "It well may be," acknowledging the very real possibility, "I do not think I would."
I do not think I would. Not I know I wouldn't.
Precisely. That slight uncertainty, that hesitation is everything. That's the genius of Millay here. She refuses easy answers. The resolution is the refusal to guarantee eternity, the refusal to deny her own human frailty under duress.
But in a way, that makes the love seem even more valuable, doesn't it? Because she recognizes how much pain or hunger it would take to make her even consider giving it up.
I think so. She communicates the profound necessity of love, paradoxically, by detailing exactly how much you would have to suffer to betray it. It's incredibly powerful because of its vulnerability.
Okay, wow. Two very different journeys in the same 14 lines. Let's move to section 4 then, and really put them side by side. Compare the form, the arguments, the big ideas.
Right, let's get technical again for a second. Structurally, we need to address that question the source material raises. Is Millay's poem a strictly Shakespearean sonnet?
We know they both use 14 lines. And the rhythm, that iambic pentameter, is definitely there in both, right? You can hear that de diem beat.
Oh, yeah, both poets absolutely master the meter. That underlying rhythm is solid. But the clue is in the rhyme scheme.
Okay. Shakespeare was a Bob, CD, F, Shake. What about Millay in Sonnet XXX?
Well, if you look closely at the first 8 lines, the octave, she follows the English pattern perfectly. A Bab, CD. She sets up the problem just like Shakespeare would.
Okay, so far so good.
But then, in the final 6 lines, the sestet, she often pivots. In many sonnets in that fatal interview sequence, including this one, Millay actually uses a rhyme scheme more typical of the Italian or Petrarchan sonnet for the ending.
Ah, so she mixes and matches.
Kind of. A common Petrarchan sestet might rhyme, say, CDSEDD or CDC-DCD. Millay uses CDDC here, which isn't standard Petrarchan either, but it departs from the English F-big structure. She creates a sort of hybrid.
Why do that?
Well, it shows incredible technical skill, for one. She's signaling, look, I know the tradition inside out. I can follow Shakespeare's rules. But the variation, the slight shift in form, it mirrors the shift in content. It subtly signals that her conclusion, her perspective, is going to be different. It's a modern twist on the old form.
That makes sense. Form follows function, or content in this case.
Exactly, but the real chasm between them is thematic. The central ideas they're exploring about love, they're just worlds apart. It really reflects that massive shift in worldview over 300 years.
So let's boil it down. Sonnet 18's main idea.
Sonnet 18. The beloved's beauty and essence are better than anything in nature. Nature fails, it decays. But art, specifically this poem, triumphs over nature and grants immortal life. Art is the fix.
Okay, and Sonnet XXX.
Sonnet XX focuses almost entirely on love's limitations when it comes up against physical reality. Love is emotionally vital, yes, crucial even, but it's materially useless. It can't save your life in a crisis. Therefore, it's fundamentally fragile, conditional, survival trumps all.
And that difference really shows up in what they compare love to, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Shakespeare picks the grandest things in nature. Summer, the sun, winds, buds.
And he only needs to show that nature is flawed to make his point about art being superior.
Whereas Millay compares love to, well, meat, drink, medicine, a roof, a splint for a broken bone. The absolute basics.
Yeah, the bare necessities of just staying alive.
What's the effect of that? Why contrast love with those things instead of, I don't know, comparing it to a flickering candle or something more conventionally poetic?
I think she's making a really stark point about the modern condition, maybe. That high ideals, romantic notions, they often crumble when faced with basic physical needs. By showing that love can't provide physical sustenance or healing, she does 2 things, paradoxically. She kind of elevates love. It's not about the body, it's about the soul, this higher, non-physical need.
Okay.
But at the same time, she exposes its terrible fragility. It's precious, yes, but it can be overridden if you're literally starving to death or dying of an illness. It's a statement about human priorities when things get really desperate. It's brutally honest.
Which forces us then to ask that final big synthesizing question. How would the speaker of each poem answer the simple statement, love lasts forever?
Ah, the million-dollar question. Shakespeare speaker. Easy answer.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Wholeheartedly agrees. Their entire poem is constructed to guarantee that promise. They'd point straight back to the eternal lines of the sonnet itself. The beloved's eternal summer shall not fade, because it's captured in the art. For Shakespeare's speaker, love and beauty, once enshrined in the permanence of the poem, are truly immortal. End of story.
Okay. Now, Millay's speaker hears, love lasts forever. What's her reaction?
Much more complicated, much tougher. She'd immediately challenge the premise, I think, particularly the idea of unconditional permanence or love enduring through any physical trial.
Because she's already admitted.
She's already admitted that extreme physical need, starvation, agonizing pain might force her to trade love away, might force betrayal. So for her, love's endurance seems conditional on basic survival needs being met first.
It doesn't mean love isn't incredibly powerful emotionally.
Not at all. She acknowledges its power, lack of it can lead to death. But she's unflinchingly honest about the body's limits. There are physical realities that even the deepest love might not be able to withstand. It's a necessary flame, absolutely, but a flame that can be tragically extinguished by the sheer force of physical deprivation or suffering.
It's a modern, pragmatic, almost painfully honest view.
Perfectly contained, ironically, within that very traditional, structurally demanding sonnet form.
Which shows the genius of both, really,
Yeah.
mastering that tiny, controlled 14-line space. Shakespeare uses the structure to climb towards transcendence, eternity. Millay uses the exact same structure to anchor herself and us in a stark, demanding reality.
Beautifully put. Which brings us, I think, to our final synthesis and maybe a provocative thought for you, the listener, to take away and chew on.
Okay, let's wrap with the key takeaways first. We've really unpacked the sonnet form, the 14 lines, the iambic pentameter, the quatrains, the couplet, the volta.
We've seen Shakespeare's powerful belief that art, his art, can conquer physical decay and grant immortality.
And we've contrasted that sharply with Millay's modern, pragmatic view. Love as this vital, non-material need, yes, but ultimately secondary to basic physical survival.
Both absolute masters of comparison, but heading in opposite directions. One compares love to the sun and finds the sun wanting. The other compares love to meat and finds, in a way, love wanting at least in a crisis.
So here's the final thought to leave you with, building on all that. If the main job of a love poem is, as we said at the start, to make an invisible feeling visible, to make it comprehensible,
Then does Millay's sonnet, precisely because it focuses so relentlessly on love's limitations, on what it cannot do, and details the agonizing cost of potentially giving it up, does it ultimately define love's necessity more powerfully, more viscerally, than Shakespeare's celebration defines its eternity?
Is a love defined by how much pain you'd endure before trading it away actually stronger, in a human sense, than a love defined by its promise of lasting forever in a poem?
Is vulnerability more compelling than transcendence? It's a tough question about value, about what matters most. And it's the kind of question that maybe only poetry, especially poetry delivered in such a tight, perfectly structured form like the sonnet, can pose so effectively, so succinctly.
Something to definitely think about.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the eternal lines and the pragmatic realities of the sonnet form. We really hope this exploration gave you some clarity, maybe some new ways to appreciate these incredible, timeless poems.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Until next time, keep reading, keep thinking, and, keep questioning those assumptions that great poetry always challenges.
Absolutely. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, Book on a Shelf. We appreciate the support. And stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive deep into another fascinating corner of literature and ideas. Until next time.